Good evening and welcome to the October 19th, 2023 meeting of the Mount Juliet Municipal and Regional Planning Commission. As we begin our meeting tonight, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. It's awfully funny. We haven't gotten rain in a long time, but it seems inevitable that most of the time for our planning commission meetings, third Thursday of every month, you get rain somehow. I don't know why it happens like that. It does seem like it happens. As we get started tonight, I think it'd be inappropriate if I didn't mention this. In between our last meeting and today, we had our continuing education for all the planning commission members here and present, along with planning commissions, other members of other boards throughout the city. And I know that traditionally we invite county board members as well in order to fill that requirement that we have continuing education to serve the city. And I guess being one of the longest tenured members up here, I've had continuing education now going on 20 years almost in doing so. And I just wanted to say thank you to you all and the effort and the work. It was probably one of my most informational, most enjoyable training sessions that I've had, getting the opportunity and grateful for Freddie Weston Jr. For what he did and allowing us over at West Wilson Utility District. It is fascinating how we provide our water to our citizens here. We are continue to be blessed to have a facility such as that and to service such a vast range and the miles away that little pump right over here in Mount Juliet, how far we send that water across this county and to how many people that services. Along with the folks coming and teaching us. I'm going to do my best tonight on our education for Robert's Rules of Order. As a city attorney would probably say that I do an average job of maintaining that as such as your chairman here for the Planning Commission. But thank you all. You could tell a lot went into that, and the camaraderie, the feedback that I got from everybody there, I thought it was well received, and I certainly enjoyed it. So thank you all for what you do for us up here and putting us in situations that are really beneficial when it comes to that continuing education. So thank you all very, very much. As well as we get started tonight, before I read my quorum statement right here, I'd like to welcome a new member to the Planning Commission tonight, Miss Linda Armstead. Miss Linda Armstead has served our county in many roles throughout her lifetime here. I believe, and I've known her since I was probably incapable of seeing over this table that I'm sitting at right here, and especially her late husband, which was a very, very good man and extremely good to me, especially in my younger age, and a very close and dear friend to my father as well. So with that being said, Linda, just quick, the floor is yours. Quick introduction and welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to serve again, and I look forward to working with the Planning Commission. I am in the urban growth boundary, and I will need lots of help with all of the acronyms that are used. I'm trying to learn as quickly as possible, so be patient as I'm asking some questions that most of you probably already know and are familiar with. So if I'm a little slow, just give me a little break there and I'll work it out there. But I appreciate that very much. And
Yes,
I appreciate you talking about the, sorry, I missed the continuing education units. I just missed that. So maybe I'll get something back a little bit later.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, welcome aboard. We're
you.
very happy to have you as a part of the commission beginning here tonight. That being said, we do have a couple members absent, so I like to read this when that does arise. Quorum is the presence of 5 members of the commission shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. Chairperson may at his or her discretion wait up to 30 minutes after the scheduled meeting time for a quorum to be present. In the event that a member is required to leave a meeting prior to adjournment and the departure causes a loss of quorum, no further official action may be taken until a quorum is restored other than an adjournment. A majority vote of those commissioners present and in no case less than 4 affirmative votes shall be required to decide any item of business requiring action by the commission. Wanted to let everybody know that particularly the part about 4 affirmative votes shall be required to decide any item of business requiring action by the commission. That being said, our next item up on the agenda falls underneath setting our agenda. I do have one item the commission shall accept that has been presented to me by staff, their request to add to our agenda this evening. I would like to add it as 6H, which would fall underneath the consent agenda. That item would be to release letter of credit for Providence Parkway Road Extension, development letter of credit number 55110363 for $887,515.04. I have spoken to staff about that and they support the addition of that to our agenda. Should that be accepted by the other commission and willing to add such? See no objection, we will add that as item 6H and it will fall underneath our consent agenda. That being said, any other changes or amendments to the agenda at this time? Seeing none, we'll set it as stated. Start off with our staff reports, begin with our planning director, Ms. Hamlin.
Thank you. Sometimes, well, most times you steal my report from me. Tonight is a night. I'm just kidding. I did want to echo your sentiments about how important it is for you guys to come to those continuing education classes. They are a lot of work by staff and we know that things come up. We are working on a makeup class for November 17th. So as soon as I get a registration link for that, I think Mr. Bullock, you'll need that. Were you at our class? Okay. So I think just Commissioner Hefner and you were like, wow, why are you looking at me? Miss Armstead will be giving y'all, sending you a link to sign up for that. It's November the 17th and it's from 8 to noon and it's actually a Zoom. So you can just do that at your convenience. And I think it'll be recorded. So if you're not able to get there at 8 to noon, you can go back and read that at your convenience. But again, I wanted to thank the Senior Citizen Center for allowing us to use their van and remind everybody there's 60 walk-in lunches or dinners available for their spaghetti fundraiser tomorrow. So you can just drive up and get lunch or dinner. That's a great fundraiser for them and a lot goes into it. So we would love for everybody to love on our seniors and support them and all they do for our community. And I also wanted to thank Freddie Weston again and our friends at MTAS for doing such a good job on that Robert's Rules of Order. It was very interesting to me and they did a good job of keeping us engaged. So thank you for all y'all do and welcome Miss Armstead. I've known you forever and this is great for me to get to spend at least a little bit of time with you every month now. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Shane, anything from Public Works?
I don't have anything to add to our staff reports from last month, but I do want to use this platform to promote a personal item. As this committee oversees the future growth of our city, I want to take a minute to acknowledge our future. My stepdaughter's doing a play, first 2 weekends in November, a joint production with Mountain Juliet High School and West Wilson Middle School called Puffs. I don't know what the play's about because I want to be surprised when I walk in the theater. But these guys have been working their tails off for the last, since school started, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. And I think as a community, if I can get one person to come out that didn't know about this play, I feel like I've gotten a success. I'd want to give a call out to all those students and those kids that are working hard. They're working right now, so they can't hear this message live, but come out, support these kids. They're our future. And this is what we're doing this for. So with that concludes my staff report.
Very good. Thank you. Yes, sir. That's awesome. All right. Next item up on our agenda is our citizen comments. At this time, we'll take citizen comments. Public is welcome and encouraged to make public comment about any item on our agenda. There'll be two opportunities for you to make comments. You may speak now, or you may speak when the item is presented to the planning commission. We do ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Anyone wishing to make comment at this time is welcome and encouraged to do so. Please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. See no citizen comments. We'll begin with our agenda. First item up, it falls underneath item 5A, under minutes approval. It is to review the minutes from the September 21st, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. Any changes, amendments, typos? I do have one myself. The one of them falls underneath 10C. It shows that Chairperson Winchester had a aye vote on that particular project, and I was absent from that vote and representing actually that project. So would like to be removed as an aye vote for that. And should staff so deem, since it does note that I did step away from the podium, came back to the podium to present item 11A and came back as your chairperson at that point. That is all that I have. Any other changes, amendments, typos? Seeing none, I'd like to ask for a motion in regards to this item on our agenda. Motion? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? So approved. Next item up on our agenda falls underneath our consent agenda. We'll begin with item 6A. It is to review and adopt the 2024 Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals submittal calendars. Item 6B, review the site plan, final master development plan for Windtree Pines Townhomes located at 810 Nottaville Road. Item 6C, review the final plat for Bradshaw Farms, Phase 1B, located on Vanner Road. Item 6D, review the final plat for Village at Pleasant Grove, Phase 2, located at 0 Pleasant Grove Road. Item 6E, which is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners, is to review the annexation for the City of Mount Juliet property located at 620 Clemens Road. Item 6F is to also a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners to review the plan of services for the City of Mount Juliet property located at 620 Clemens Road. Item 6G, review the preliminary plat for the MWAM subdivision located at 9911 Central Pike. Item 6H is a release of letter of credit for Providence Parkway Road Extension, development letter of credit number 55110363 for $887,000 or $887,515.04. Ms. Hamlin.
Thank you. Staff recommends approval of the consent agenda items with any conditions that we have listed in our staff report.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shane, anything from Public Works?
Ditto planning.
Very well. Thank you. Guess I got to speak up with that rain. That's awesome. Needed it. Be testing all the retention and detention with that much rain right now. That's for sure. Any questions or comments from the commission? At this time, we'll be closing our planning commission meeting in order to open a public hearing. Public hearing is in regards to item 6C and 6D. 6C is to review the final plat for Bradshaw Farms, Phase 1B, located on Vanner Road. Item 6D, review the final plat for Village at Pleasant Grove, Phase 2, located at 0 Pleasant Grove Road. Anyone wishing to make comment on either of those two items during the public hearing, welcome and encouraged to do so. Please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, we'll close the public hearing, reopen our planning commission meeting, at which time I'm looking for a motion in regards to the items on our consent agenda. It's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Against? Abstentions? So approved. If it is okay with the planning commission, I'd like to recommend, the next items up, 7A and 7B to be read and heard together. 7A is, both fall underneath annexation and plan of services. Both are recommendation items back to the Board of Commissioners. Item 7A is to review the annexation for the Henninger property located at 1006 Gill Road. And 7B is to review the plan of services for the Henninger property located at 1006 Gill Road. Would that be acceptable for us to hear them together, or any objection to us doing so? That being said, we'll hear items 7A and 7B together. Item 7A is to review, both are recommendation items back to the Board of Commissioners. Item 7A is to review the annexation for the Henninger property located at 1006 Gill Road. Item 7B is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners, is to review the plan of services for the Henninger property located at 1006 Gill Road. Ms. Hamlin?
As you stated, this is an annexation request as well as a plan of services request. The applicant intends to redevelop this site, currently a mobile home park out in the county, into 18 single-family lots, about 20,000 square feet in size. If you guys remember, just last month, we amended the regulations that we have to require 40,000 square foot lots as a minimum to match the county's new regulations, whereas it was 1 acre. This development isn't quite meeting that mark, so they're going to have to ask, which is what they're doing tonight, for annexation and meet that mark if they are annexed. However, they could develop out in the county should we deny their annexation. And frankly, I would love to see this in the city if it made sense for us due to its location. I think it would be detriment to our public safety departments, fire, police. It would be difficult for Public Works to get out there for chipper, not to mention Shane's sewer is a mile away at least. So staff recommends denial of the annexation request for this project. Thank you.
Well, Shane, anything for Public Works?
I want to talk about the plan of services. Along with that, it is not in the best interest, or my recommendation would be it's not in the best interest to serve this development sewer today due to the fact that sewer is at least a mile away, direct line that's going through property and everything else. The applicant would have to deal with the TVA easement that could possibly reroute this sewer. It'd possibly take 2 miles to get sewer to this development. We have no way of serving it today. And the letter that I've placed at each one of your spots shows that there are no viable options for the city of Mount Juliet to serve this development. And as part of this denial of annexation, I would recommend that we also deny this development sewer service and let them pursue options that are in compliance with county standards.
Well, thank you. Questions, comments from the commission?
Yeah, you mentioned public services. How far would what's the closest, I guess, for a fire or a police? How long would it take us as a city to get out there opposed to currently WEMA in the county?
A new station right on Central Pike, which would be minutes to this location, whereas our current station is here, Station 3 or our Providence station.
So the Providence station would have to go out there, which would pull
Mhm.
away from services.
And if they
Essentially,
were tied up, it would be Station 3 or Station 1 now serving this first, I can't even talk, servicing that location as a backup.
okay,
And of course, our police department too. And it's not contiguous with anything in the city. So we'd be going fairly well out of our way to provide services to this site.
Yeah, our response with fire, it's a way out of our response time, and it's gonna, given the time of day, it can get us up to 10 minutes of response there, depending on traffic and everything. So,
and how many? What is it? How many homes in subdivision?
Proposed 18 single-family lots.
So 18. I mean, every life's, every call is important, right?
Of course.
Right. So, but we're going to pull for the possibility of maybe 18 lots. And then there's 4 people that can be diminished service at the time if we did the
Mhm.
Correct. It would pull from our current services for sure.
Thanks.
Further questions, comments? This time, let's call for representation and or citizen comments. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Charlie Dean with Dean Design Group here representing the project. Mr. Henninger is also here as well. We've been in contact with both county planning and city planning. Mr. Henninger bought this property a little over a year ago. And the intent would be to develop this property. It's currently a 14 pad mobile home park that has units in it that date all the way back to the 70s. The idea would be to replace this with a new single family subdivision. After meeting with county planning and city planning, the only viable way to do that would be within the county regulations under a PUD. And we want to do that. And we'd like to proceed with that type of development. So we're here requesting, as you know, a manner of the form that we need to within the urban growth boundary, we're here requesting a denial of the annexation and a denial of access to sewer. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and keep the floor open for any citizen comments. Any citizens wishing to make comment in regards to this item on the agenda, welcome and encouraged to do so. Name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, I'd like to ask for a recommendation in regards to these items on our agenda. It's a motion and a second for a negative recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? That is a negative recommendation. Yes, sir. Next item up on our agenda falls underneath a zoning ordinance amendment is item 8A, which is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. It is to review the zoning ordinance amendment for Article 11, sign ordinance. Ms. Johnson.
Task that was then, and it's taken us 7 years to come back full circle again. So basically what prompted this rewrite was just trying to work with the business community, staff. We worked with the chamber a lot, trying to meet in the middle to see what we could figure out as, you know, some good middle ground to give a lot of opportunities to our business community to not only be able to have maximum marketing potential, but also while maintaining the aesthetics of the city that we are so very proud of at this point. We basically did an overhaul in order to simplify this manual to make it more clear and concise, so it's not so convoluted. Our last manual was very, in my opinion, was very convoluted. It was difficult to maintain and also to explain to people in just some general terms. So what we did, and just kind of a short synopsis of this is, we took away a couple of signs that we've had a lot of complaints with over the years that were due to maintenance and so forth, as far as temporary signs, but we included a lot of new signs within this ordinance that have been requested over the years. A lot of that too is due to the expansive growth that we've had within the city. We've got a lot of new buildings, a lot of new designs and opportunities that we would like to afford to people coming in with new development. But also too, we were getting a lot of variances and waiver requests. It was placing an undue burden on not only staff, but the planning commission, constantly having to approve waivers and variances, not only just as a, through the staff, but also through PUD amendments. So we were just trying to kind of make it easier for everybody, to be honest. The new signs that we've added basically were band signs around the building. Those you see more in like a downtown type field district. Some too also are more of like a retro feel, which is really, really good for the city. We've added temporary sandwich or A-frame signs. It allows a little more flexibility for people to have some temporary signs without just making everything just overwhelming with these banners and junking up the city, honestly. We've also added a projecting or hanging sign that a lot of people like to have on these multi-tenant retail centers where you can see it when you're walking down the sidewalks, such as Providence, without having to look up. If you're not looking at the walls, you're walking down the sidewalk, you can see these projecting signs. Just it would be a quick look for you to be able to maintain where you want to go. We also have added sports fields because that is a consistent complaint we get with a lot of these signs at sports fields. We're just trying to get some continuity with their signage, allow them the large signs that they would like to have, but also, as I said, the continuity with those. One caveat with that is these will not, we have no jurisdiction over Wilson County school signs. So that will have nothing to do with any of the schools. It's basically going to be our sports fields within the city, not only our parks, but also such as the Little League. Excuse me. And then also vertical blade signs, but it's pretty clear cut and concise. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
All right. Number 4 on the summary of sign regulations revision. So the banners before, so now you're saying, I guess you're saying, so the banners, were they prohibited before?
No, banners were allowed before.
Or
That is
temporary.
our biggest complaint we get through not only our department, but also codes enforcement. City manager's department also gets tons of complaints about these because they, due to them not being a rigid type sign, a lot of people will put those out, but they will not maintain them. We have problems with them blowing into the roads, and they're just not pleasant to look at most of the time.
Right.
They're not aesthetically pleasing at all.
Okay. And then 6A, ban signs. So we're gonna, so in lieu of awning or canopy wall signs. So my only question with that is on that one, as far as the 6A, 6C is, you know, if somebody comes before us, are we gonna say, I mean, now that they're allowed,
Mhm.
are we gonna come back and say to them, hey, we want to see, we don't want to see a blade sign, even though it's in the ordinance. Now that we're putting it in the ordinance,
Mhm.
yeah, I see what we're saying. We're saying that we can do a blade sign in lieu of if they don't have the canopy if they currently don't have a canopy, but are we going to go back and ask them to put in a canopy instead of using the blade sign? You follow what I'm saying?
I think so. Are you talking for new development?
Yeah, new development, somebody stands at the podium,
Mhm.
they propose a blade sign. Somebody says, I want to see I don't want to see that. I want to see I don't want to see a blade sign. I don't like them. Right.
That's
But
your option as the commission. You do have that authority to grant under a PUD amendment. If it's something within the sign ordinance, then that's the way that we have to grant those applications. But if it is something that they come to you with a waiver or variance or through a PUD, you do have that option to make that determination of the type of signage that you would like.
okay. And then 8. So we're going from 25% in the window sign down to 15, just for what is it, visibility in and out of the building?
Yes, sir. And that was in discussions I had with police department as well. I talked with Captain Chandler quite a bit over this. The window signage does present a huge problem for them. For not only them, if they got a safety call, such as a burglary in progress, if you've got large window signage, you can't see in.
Sure, I get
And
it.
that's another issue we're having with like the window perforation. We're trying to also prohibit those because even though they are used lots of times just for light blocking only, they do present a problem because they are not, there's no visual acuity from the outside looking in. So that is one reason we're trying to get rid of those as well, because that's been a big complaint from our first responders as well.
And then so current businesses that are currently, in compliance, will we change, would they have to comply there? It's just grandfathered in pretty much, right?
It'd
So
be
conditional
future.
use.
All
Okay.
future.
And then the last thing I have is just the open and closed sign by permit only. They've currently are applying for that permit for that. Is that under their current sign permit now to have that window number 8, the last part of that, the neon signs in a window?
The neon signs and everything, we have not permitted those per se. We review those, but we've not permitted them, required the permits. The reason for those, we are having an overwhelming amount of window signage that's being put in without our knowledge. So this is about the only way that we have the ability to control those. Of course, we are going to have those that are not going to comply, and we'll have to deal with those on a case-by-case basis.
Thanks. That's all I got.
You're welcome.
And I think that was the only, one of the questions I had concerning the 8, the last part of 8 is the illuminated window. And I mentioned, for example, like the Christmas store would have stringing lights possibly in the window, or a florist would have lights stringing, and there are some businesses that may want to do something that is artistic, that denotes the fact that they are in here for business, and this is a little catchy way to do that. So I did question that myself as well. And I understand how it's can be done, but I just hope we don't do too much to keep people from wanting to, do celebrations for special occasions and things like that as well. And then the other question I had was to you concerning the pylon signs in number 7. And I was asking, what is the regulation now, like 75 feet for, or 100 feet for Cracker Barrel? And the only thing I have a problem with that as a traveler, as I'm traveling down the interstate, I do like to see where things are located. And I understand what you're saying concerning the culpability of what would happen if concerning falls and signage falling off. So I do understand that, but I just don't want to impede the option for a business to, when we get Costco here, or they can put a big sign up on the interstate, or what would they want to do? So I want to consider that, because our businesses are what bring us together and what we're excited about having here. So, and I don't know, I kind of a little bit,
Ms.
I don't know about
Armstead?
the 15 feet there.
Sure. Can I respond about the Costco signs?
Sure.
So they're actually a PUD. So they have the capability to come in and ask for variances to the sign ordinance, which they have already done. So
Okay.
that's the one thing we always tell a big box, especially like if you want any sign variances, now's your time to do it. So they have already asked for the signage that they want. And that's it. A lot of the cases, we have them do that on the front end. So for that instance, it's already taken care of because we know what signs they want, and you guys, along with the BOC, have the capability to approve that for those.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is the 15-foot regulation? Is there a business that it now complies with that we would know about?
No, ma'am, not at this time. Most of our monument signs, the tallest size we have right now, our maximum height is 12 foot. We are starting to see a lot more multi-tenant centers that would like to have several sign faces to incorporate all of those businesses. So that's one reason too, that it would increase it to 15 foot. It would give them a lot more square footage on the sign for additional tenants. So that way it gives an opportunity for everybody to have the marketing potential. We have run into where some of these signs have been too small that doesn't allow a space for every tenant. And it's not fair. So it's kind of a waiting game to see who moves out and who gets the next opportunity. To speak to the interstate pylon signs, don't know if some of y'all have noticed, we've had a couple on the opposite side, on the south side of the interstate, that we have the poles now and the signs are missing. That's due to, there has been a lot of maintenance issues with these signs. We've had pieces falling off of these signs. We are also tightening up our maintenance requirements within this with the change of occupancy, change of use, that these signs do have to be updated and maintained. But the biggest thing with these interstate signs is the fall zones. I mean, we are now in Tornado Alley, and that is one of the biggest problems that we are having, is a safety issue with these signs. And also too, the interstate, now that the interstates are putting up the signs that show you what all is available on the interstate off ramps. The only ones that we've actually had, we've only had one probably in 6 or 7 years that has requested a tall pylon sign, but they ended up not coming to fruition, so we didn't have to worry about it. But generally the ones you see nowadays are just for gas stations. And those are generally centrally located right there at your interchange. So it's not as big of an issue for us. The current signs that we have now are allowed to be maintained. Now, if there is a change of use or change of occupancy under the updated ordinance, those signs, if they just determined that they wanted to do a change to them, they would have to come down. So that is a thing that we did. In regards to the lighting, one of the complaints we've had that kind of brought this to light is the Take 5 car wash on Lebanon Road. It's like a disco. in there, and it does cause some issues with people traveling. We've had complaints of motorists traveling saying it is a distraction, and that is the last thing that we need is a distraction on the roadways with people. And then also too, when you get into some of these tenant centers, we're seeing a lot of light pollution that are coming from a lot of these windows and storefronts. That is a huge complaint that we get as well. So again, it's just more so to maintain the aesthetics. We want to give them the availability to say, hello, we're here, we're open, but also to kind of scale it back a little bit to do it in a more of a classy manner. I guess you could say we will be willing to work with them. It's there's just certain methods and means, and we'll do it on a case by case basis, but it's more so just not cramming every neon sign that you can get in these windows that just screams we're here. It's just, we'd like to keep the city as clean and as neat as possible, and this is just a means of doing so.
I have several. So
Yeah.
this will be my probably sixth time to see in my tenure here to see a sign ordinance change. And hats off, because this is a heck of a lot easier to read and versus what we dealt with it in the past. As a matter of fact, at one point in time, it took us almost 6 months in a subcommittee in order to get the sign ordinance rewritten and actually get something that we could recommend back to the BOC. So this is much easier to read, much easier to see. I like the addition of the pictures in there, because pictures do go a long way as far as that's concerned, and do help to clarify that. With that being said, from my standpoint, I've already mentioned that to both Jennifer and Jill, is it's a lot to read in a short time period and really absorb in the time period we're allowed to, from when we get our packet to tonight. So I've not gotten all the way through it where I can make comments about everything, but a few things have come to me up to this point. One of them is, and both of you guys mentioned this, that we've got the ability to grant a variance out there, but in both instances that were mentioned, that's if they were in a PUD. What if they're base zone? So base zone, we have zero ability. So if it's already got if they're coming in, they're meeting the requirements, it's a commercial building fronting the interstate, they have zero ability to grant any variances on those if they develop underneath base zoning.
That's correct.
Okay.
The only change in there is, and we had it in the prior ordinance, is we've now extended the wall signs. They used to be 120 square feet. We've now extended it to 300 due to a lot of these large facilities such as Costco. It was a good learning point for us, and not just calling them out. We had to Staco years ago over on Belinda Parkway that we had this problem that
Yep.
huge facility, minute little signs.
Yeah.
It's not fair,
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty. So the only provision that we have in here are yes, the big box, the commercial industrial buildings with a wall dimension greater than 300 lineal feet and over 100,000 square foot in floor space. They can come back before you and ask for an increase on wall signage, but that's it. But it would be in excess of 300 square feet per wall sign.
That's regardless of,
Yes, ma'am.
that's regardless of PUD or base zoning. They have the ability if it's
Yeah.
something.
Just for that.
At
That's strict
Destaco,
recommendation.
matter of fact, I went and watched my niece cheerlead over there this past weekend, and been a minute since I've been over there to Monday Park, which was beautiful, by the way. Lots of stuff going on over there. I just don't have anything that takes me over that way lately, but that immediately came to mind as I went over there and looking at that building, because that variance granted made sense. I mean, because it was like a little pellet on that big old wall of their building. As I came in, I also drove slow tonight in order to just take a look. A lot of our mom and pop family owned businesses are isolated along the Lebanon Road, North Mount Juliet Road corridor up there. Not that we don't have several located around the Providence and Paddocks area as well, but our core mom and pops are kind of this stretch right here of North Mount Juliet Road, leading all the way up there to Lebanon Road. And my fear is to make sure that there's not unintended consequences for the implementation of this amendment to the sign ordinance. one of the things that I did notice, is that I would dare to say that if I observed right, that of the glass available storefronts in just the stretch from Nautical Road, to Daniels Parkway, just available businesses that are through that corridor, right there. I'd say that the majority of the businesses located in there are probably using anywhere from 35% to 50% of their glass. Not necessarily for advertising. A lot of it is just for lettering. And so that's what I mean is definitely support, if you got a big poster that's blocking, and we get somebody robbed, hurt, anything, you want to be able to see in there, especially as an old banker myself, we had to give, we have plans to our building, I think here with staff, should anything happen, at the bank. But I mean, they're, if we do this, they're going to have to peel all this off, right?
No.
Only if they change names or whatnot, or ownership
No.
or something in
Yes, sir.
there. Because that's what I don't want to hurt. I remember at one point in time, we heard an amendment to the sign ordinance in regards to certain check cashing place that came in and lit up and very unattractive. Of course, my best reaction to that, and I think I said it that night, was the easiest way to not like their building is not to service that establishment and don't go to it anymore. They will not last long. Still here, it looks a little bit better these days, but we were trying to help something that was a very bad eyesore. And should we have passed that at that point in time, it would have really been detrimental to a lot of our other businesses in town. So I just want to really make sure that nothing that we have in here would affect those folks that do have a lot of an investment up in those businesses particularly. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say I'm happy to announce that very soon you will see a redevelopment of that site.
Very good.
Yes. that's
Very, very good.
exciting.
Yes. So trying to be conscious of that right there. Another thing that just kicks into mind as I pulled into this parking lot, our own general store, that I think is fantastic right here, is now in violation. So if that thing changes, or gets hit by a storm, as could be out there tonight. I mean, it sounds like something's going on out there. Something rolled over top of us, here this evening. So if that gets wiped out, we can't redo that. Or can we, because we're the city?
You're right. You're correct.
Is that right?
We do not have to follow our own rules.
Very well.
We just make them.
Well, yes, I understand.
We do try to rein Mr. Kenny in, we all know, but you all try that.
Yes, I've known him many, many, many years.
But I am excited for those hanging signs. They're so cute.
Yeah.
What is it? Cooking Around Town has one down there at, what's the name of that? Providence? It's the apartment complex.
Meridian, it-
Meridian.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So cute. I love it. And I think it'll be really useful and utilized whenever our downtown.
And we'd actually
I
hope for that when we
Mhm.
actually developed this town center zoning that we have through here. I mean, that was kind of the intent, to give it that feel like what you're saying
And I
right
think that
there.
with those sandwich boards too, as long as they're not blocking ADA pass-through requirements, I think they're great, especially like there's one all the time down here at Scrumptious, the chicken salad place,
Right.
and Mr. King's photography. They're just so cute and tastefully done. You don't have to worry about them not being taut or ripped or in the middle of Mount Juliet Road. I just think it's a lot better option than a banner.
What
Um,
about another one that stuck out to me, because it's one of our oldest buildings in the city of Mount Juliet, in the Masonic Lodge. You know, the Masonic Lodge has got their wooden sign sitting right out there. I feel the utmost confidence that their sign is in violation as it probably sits today. But that stretch has been prone, when we've gotten those severe storms, seems to be the target area for those. Something like that went away. Is that gone forever?
They're actually in the county,
Are they really?
Yeah. so they can have what they want.
So we wouldn't have to worry about ones like that. All right.
And we, obviously on historical type signs, we would definitely use common sense and practicality in those cases.
So we got a couple more, 11.101.4 materials, B3. prohibited materials to be wood, wood products, poles and posts. Would that also qualify for temporary signs?
Yeah.
Or is that just permanent?
No, temporary as well. We do get a huge complaint about these wooden signs because of how quickly they deteriorate over time, especially once you get a lot of these new large developments that want to put out the leasing signs once they get a site plan approved, which we do not allow leasing signs, coming soon construction signs until a site plan or there has been an approval of the PUD or whatever. But that is another issue that we have is just how much they deteriorate because some of these sites are not going to develop very quickly and when they're out in the elements over a great deal of time, even though some of that stuff is outdoor rated, it still deteriorates. So that's why we're looking at something that's more of a low maintenance feel with like not necessarily the Trex, but when you get into the vinyl type signage, it does hold up a lot better. But we're just trying to get away from any wood or wood products because that is a continual problem we have that our City Beautiful has to pick up a lot too.
Could it be a vinyl type sign, but with treated 4x4 posts on it? That wouldn't be allowed at all.
Mm-mm. No, we've removed all wood from it. We've allowed all other outdoor rated materials. It's just the wood that we've removed.
Unless they sleeve it.
Yeah,
Right,
they
they
could
could do a
sleeve it.
vinyl
Yeah, they could
sleeve.
do a sleeve on it, but as far as.
I don't
just
know
an
if you can
exposed-
sleeve those big ones like that, like somebody that builds, a lot of times they're used so that contractors can figure out where you are and where you're located, get safely in and out of the sign, not be turning around in places that they shouldn't. So they do serve their purpose for that.
Well, we do like for them to have the capability because they are out for extended periods of time, these temporary development and leasing signs. So that is one reason that we looked at that because we do know that they're going to be out there in all the elements for a very extended period of time. So that's why we're trying to utilize any other type of outdoor rated material without having to worry about them deteriorating so quickly.
Could we put a trigger on that and just say that, you only got 6 months that you can put that out or 12 months that you could put that out and at which time you cannot reuse the same sign?
Well, we could, I mean, if that's something that you would like to amend the ordinance on the way that we have it written now, is that the signs have to be, the construction signs are allowed until 5 days following the issuance of the CO.
Yep.
The leasing signs, such as for multifamily development, they have to come up within, once the property has 75% leased out, they have to come up at that time or a period of 3 years, whichever is the lesser of the two. So we do have some triggers, not necessarily the exact trigger you're mentioning, but I'm amenable if you want to do a certain time frame on those.
Yeah, I guess, such a double-edged sword. I mean, honestly, because I agree with you. I mean, there's some out there that,
They
wouldn't
do
take me
like
long to drive down the road to
Mhm.
see some that looks like, it's fascinating that the weed eater can almost chop a 4x4 post in half, but it's been there so long that the weed eater is about taking it down itself. But then you go through and there's some that are wood-based, at least for the posts, that are tastefully done and the right way done. Just trying to think of somebody that's done those in the past, how you could even use an alternate material. I mean, there's really not many alternate materials that you can use for those 4x8 signs that you see frequently throughout for something like that. I'm not aware of an alternate material that could be used for that other than a treated 4x4 post. I guess you could buy steel posts. All of a sudden your sign gets to be around a $3,000 sign if you went to steel on that, but I don't even think that they make anything applicable for that. You make a standard real estate sign that goes into a metal frame that you could use. But outside of that, when it gets any larger than probably
those
your
are
biggest
pricey.
real estate sign is what,
Yeah.
about 4x8?
As far as we were talking about the sleeving, as Ms. Hamblin said, when we recently had the issue with the fencing at the last apartment complex we did, where they were supposed to put in the low maintenance opaque style fencing,
Yeah.
and they ended up putting a wood fence, and we had them remove it. We did allow them to leave the 4x4 posts, and they did sleeve them. They did have some tricks, similar type materials that they were able to sleeve those 4x4 posts, which that was a compromise. And her mentioning that it is a possibility, and I'd be very amenable to that because it would still give the appearance of something that is not wood, but it also would protect it as well from the elements.
Very good. I'm gonna move on from that one real quick. Just this one's a quick typo. 11.101.6, A, the second sentence reads, the remainder of the sign R shall, remove the word R, A-R-E. I don't think that that's intended to be there. It says the remainder, probably should read the remainder of the sign shall. Just a small typo on that one. So when it comes to maintenance, and this is what I know we got this right now, but whenever you kick something like this in, who is going to enforce this and who's going to be the judge on what is qualified as maintenance, like under 11.101.7? Who is doing that?
At this time, you're one and only. I'll go out from time to time when I have the availability, but we are very blessed to have a wonderful codes department in City Beautiful that also has eyes on the roads every day.
Yeah.
And they have become accustomed to listening to me complain about this so much that I'm not able to get out. They have taken it upon themselves as well to assist us with that. And we do get calls from time to time. They will call in and offer up certain properties that may be in violation, and they'll contact me and we'll coordinate efforts on that. So it's nice having additional eyes out on the road, and they are very familiar with this. But we also, once this is passed, we will have additional people within the planning department that we're going to train on this. So we'll have additional bodies out there in the field from time to time, not just one when we do have the time to go out there, because it can be overwhelming, especially as quickly as the city is expanding.
I was going to make that comment to say that I would like to also include that is not your responsibility, especially in your role for the planning department here at the city of Mount Juliet. I don't feel like that's a really good use of your time, energy, and efforts. Creating ordinances like this is a great one, but going out there and doing something like that also can be fairly sensitive,
Yes.
especially if you're traveling alone
Mhm.
on that, and highly confrontational conversation, I could only imagine, as it would be.
I've had some
Um,
of those, so we're looking at alternate means of how we can enforce this. I've been working with Ms. Hamblin, and she and I've had a lot of discussions about this, and I do agree. It's not just a one-person job, so we're trying to, get others involved in this as well. So allow me to shift my duties onto other things aside from just signs. I've enjoyed it immensely, but it'd be nice to have the additional bodies out there.
I agree 100%. And that's why she's been working on this for a really long time, and I've been pushing her along. I'm like, all right, Jill, it's time, because I would really like to train Kenny and Tyler in our office to be able to issue these permits, go out and drive around the town and look and help with those maintenance issues. But I can't say enough. Marty's in the room. Him and his team are such a blessing to the planning department, and they help us so much with, while this is the zoning ordinance, it's not codes, but they have always, taken initiative on those signs, and we really appreciate that. So Miss Jill will be hopefully doing what I've promoted her to do very, very soon.
Yeah.
And I have some more eyes in the planning department looking at these for us. So
Yeah, maybe a coordination, with your role in the office with planning, or maybe even, because you're right, City Beautiful just continues to grow. There you get the presence on your sidewalks in front of our businesses everywhere across town. They're visible, they're present. I mean, for that matter, even our police department is as well, to give you an ability to say, hey, here's our ordinances. This is what you're tasked for, your responsibility. And maybe they bring them back to you guys to, yes, that's a violation. We'll send a letter, what are your steps in order to enforce that, make them aware of the violation that they're in out there. And then continue to go through the channels until it is corrected. So definitely a concern of mine is, as this changed here, and I would please, your time would be better served elsewhere. So I guess this was for Mr. Marchetti, is if do we have teeth where we can enforce this? I mean, do you get in a situation where you just go down and cut down a sign and pull it on? I mean, take it home?
But as Jill noted, with Marty and them, hopefully they're convincing. We followed up with several stern letters, which have had the impact and effect, similar to they're not cutting their grass and those sorts of things.
Sure.
To do it, take it down, send them the bill, and if they don't, we file suit.
Very well. All right, just a few more, I promise, because I didn't get all the way through it, and I probably have way more questions if I did. So I want to go back underneath 11.101.9. One of them on here says freestanding canopy signs, or item G, freestanding canopy signs except as permitted in gas stations. Can we? I'm just thinking of retro. You're seeing some businesses redeveloped right now into like restaurants where they actually utilize a canopy. You're actually seeing some building designs as well to have those canopies that are similar to the old gas station. I don't know that we necessarily have any that were applicable. The only one is probably right here across the street, and who knows, could come into a diner, utilize that canopy that's sitting out there all of a sudden for something like that. I mean, do we see any other uses where that could be applicable outside of a gas station on that?
There are allowances for canopy signs for gas stations. What that is speaking to, and we probably can clarify it a little bit better, is these cigarette signs and alcohol signs that you're seeing under the canopies, within the canopies, of where your pumps are and everything. We're trying to get
Love.
rid of those.
Yeah.
The clutter. And you all did that with the Golden Bear Market. It's very clean.
Looks awesome.
It's
It is
an
so
amazing
nice.
site.
Yeah.
So that's what that is. And we can clarify the verbiage on that a little bit more, but it's just your freestanding signs under and within the canopy.
And we did that to another gas station too, which continues to be a violation.
Yes.
See the sign problems that we have.
So, and I guess there's really more of a legal thing over there for that, because you're kind of saying, hey, everybody, none of y'all can do it, but hey, if you're a gas station, you can do it. And can we really say that only a gas station can do it? Because I don't know, it's more of a Mr. Marchetti question on that one.
Well, we do
Um,
allow signs on canopies.
Yeah, it's the canopies themselves, such as the MAPCO up north. They are redeveloping. They are allowed canopy signs. They're very limited. They're only allowed 40 square feet, and they can be, they're allowed 2. So you can do them at 10 on this one and 30 on this one. It's just a maximum size. But this is strictly speaking to the freestanding signs under and within the cover of that canopy. It's not the canopy itself. That's why I said we probably need to be a little bit more clear on my verbiage there. It's just those freestanding signs under and within that canopy cover.
Love it. So
Just the junky loose
Yes.
signs that they stick up that they can change.
with zip ties,
Yes, and even the ones that are put on the posts and
Yeah.
poles underneath the
That
canopy.
blow off,
against
hang
the hill
off, yeah.
Stations. Yeah.
I agree. I agree 100%. Also underneath, I guess would fall underneath this is 11.101.9. Bench signs with advertisement, memorial markers, and nonprofit bench signs are allowed. And this may fall underneath where the city and we can do it. Is the how we wrap our transformers. I love that.
Mhm.
And I want to make sure that we're not doing anything that would prohibit our ability as transformers continue to come across the city. I think that that's a neat thing. I've not seen anybody else doing that in any other municipalities. And I would like to make sure that we don't do anything to prohibit, but we keep that. I mean, is
Those
that
are not listed. It's
Okay.
prohibited.
all right, so I'm gonna move on again. 11.101.9 Z. Because this one was a problem for us at one point. Vehicle signs are only allowed if wrapped or painted and may not be parked off-site for the sole purpose of advertising. Should that be on-site?
No, we're just talking about parking offsite. So say, we had, Gino's Bakery here. He goes and intentionally parks it down at Providence and leaves it there. That's what we're talking about offsite. If he has, Gino's Bakery has his car and his lot there, then he can have it. But it's just intentionally going and parking offsite for the sheer purpose of advertising. Because we've had that.
Because Luke's Bakery is over there and he wants all my
Exactly.
business.
Exactly.
You gotta watch, Judy.
We
Yes.
have a lot of those
Yeah.
actually that.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. What, yeah, what,
Gotta be careful.
what,
Those are temporary, non-commercial.
really, yeah. I like a good sweater. I like a good sweater. So what about, and maybe it's in here, and I've missed it. What about like a couple instances that were in the past where they've said, hey, city, you won't give me a sign, so I'm gonna go buy this 1978 van that doesn't run anymore. And I'm gonna put a wrap on it for my business. I'm gonna park it at the front of my parking lot and we're gonna leave that thing there.
If it doesn't run, then that falls under codes and they'll deal with that as unlicensed and untagged and
So if it
usable
runs and if
vehicle.
it's tagged
and it's on their property.
and they park it there and they just leave it there because we don't give them a sign. Do we not do anything? Can we not put anything in here to prohibit that type of action?
It's gonna be hard to discriminate between, what you consider viable signage. Because you may have, there are some we have a bookkeeper that has a wrapped vehicle.
Yeah.
Looks very good and
Yeah.
it's parked every day because it's utilized as part of her business. Now, if she went and bought a van, that's going to be kind of a fine line there as we determine what looks good and what doesn't. Because if it runs, it's tagged, it's licensed, it's an operating vehicle. I don't know. I'd have to defer to Mr. Marquetti on that, how we would make that determination of what would be.
And I don't believe we can prohibit those altogether.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Real vehicle, they drive. Just park there all the time. You start to see flat tires, even though it quote runs. Weeds growing up around it, that
Sure.
sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. That would fall into
Then
codes.
it's turned into a quote sign, not a
Yes.
wrap vehicle. Makes sense.
And we would
So-
definitely hear about it and codes would.
So we would potentially have some teeth should that situation re-arise as it has in the past.
Guarantee you we would hear about it.
Okay. And this one just falls underneath the non-conforming sign sections. I love some of the murals that have come up around town. We're not doing anything to restrict those decorative murals, are we?
No, sir, as long as they're decorative and don't have advertisement within those, they are allowed. They're beautiful. It's a nice addition to the city.
Any changes to political signage or real estate signage in here?
I just know offsite as it's always been as far as the real estate signage. They're not allowed. As far as political, that falls under a temporary non-commercial. Nothing has changed as far as legalities on those. It's still allowed for 16 square foot in residential and 32 square foot in non-residential areas, one per political candidate / issue. You just can't have multiple of the same, but you can have one. So if you've got 10 candidates you want to support, you can have up to 16 square feet on residential per sign, and they can be dual face. So there's been no changes since the previous election cycles. And we've also already forwarded that information onto the election commission for part of their packets once they start this next season. And we've run that by Mr. Marquetti and his staff, and they've given their blessing on it that nothing has changed and we're still within compliance there.
And there's a certain time period in which they're allowed to do that
Yes,
too,
they
right?
they can do 60 days prior to the start of the election, which includes early voting, and then it has to be removed within 5 days following the end of the election cycle. Now, some of these election cycles with your
Yeah.
early voting, you're going to be within a week or so, and you're going to start seeing signs go back up again. But that is something that we do allow us at 60 days prior to the first early voting day.
And the corners like real estate signs for open houses, et cetera, are still allowed, but
They're
only.
allowed this on-site only. They cannot be off-site. So if you put one at the corner of Nautival and Lebanon Road and you're selling something in Wintry Trace, it wouldn't be allowed.
So to get pulled up, and you
Yes,
can come down here to City Hall to pick it up
Yes, sir.
by the dumpster. Yeah, if you don't, it'll go in the dumpster. Yeah. That's a lot, sorry. Yeah. You probably knew I'd have a bunch of questions on
Oh,
this
it's all
one.
right. That's what I'm here for.
So since I decided to talk a lot, questions or comments? Any other comments in regards to this item on the agenda? Very well. Let's call for citizen comments. He says, wish to make comment. Welcome, encouraged to do so. Microphone, name and address for the record.
Jennifer Mullally, 217 Sunny Acre. Just a question about yard sale, garage sale signs. Any changes on that?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Please, Commissioner Searcy.
The banner signs, how durable are they? I mean, the wind is whooping them, the weather. How long do they normally last before you'd have to replace them?
Banners
have
are,
any
yeah,
idea?
they're the ones that we continuously, and I know Marty and his team are picking up banner signs all the time. That's one that we get a continual complaint on. That's why we're requesting to prohibit those now and just ask that they put up some type of rigid sign because there's a lot of availability out there. And it's just cleaner and neater overall. And you certainly don't want one of them blowing out on your vehicle if we get a bad storm like we did tonight. You know, it's just, and I hate to keep using the word safety, but it is a safety aspect as well.
I mean, frankly, the request came straight from our city manager, Kenny Martin, because it is a constant issue. So then we've got our guys in the middle of Mount Juliet Road trying to pick up signs or wherever, Lebanon Road, and it's just a dangerous situation. So that really came to us from our city manager, and I agree, and it's a constant problem. I just wanted to give you all another insight of where that is coming from.
Sure.
So it also is not just aesthetics, but it's a safety issue for our employees that are out there having to. I mean, I couldn't tell you the number of windstorms that we get and City Beautiful's out there picking up signs in the middle of the road. And it's just not it's a dangerous situation for our staff. And those business owners that are out there themselves trying to catch their signs.
Right. Mhm. Okay.
It would also prohibit the little blow up dancing little thing that
Yeah,
twists
they've
off.
never been allowed. They've never been allowed to, those,
Yeah.
those are, we have
That's
a
the
couple
holiday
of
ban.
violators we have with those, but those are the flags, the teardrop type flags. Those again, one of the first times when we prohibited those back in 2016 was one fell into the roadway on a car and it caused a wreck. So I had one of the commissioners at that time said, get them gone. So a lot of these are safety driven. It's not just aesthetics.
Because we're gonna eliminate like the LED lights and windows, et cetera, out there. Does that have an unintended consequence on a business that may want to decorate for Christmas?
Holiday decorations are kind of considered slightly different, but if it's away, a minimum of 12 inches away from the window, we were not gonna harass them over those. And as Jennifer spoke earlier, we do have some ability with some common sense to look at what they're trying to do. It's just and I'm sure you've seen some of these windows that are just loaded with these neon
Oh,
signs.
it's so bright.
And it's obnoxious, to be honest, and it's light pollution, and it's just caused us a lot of issues over time. So we're just trying to clean it up, make it neat. We're still allowing them to have the open and closed or hours of operation type signs, but these bright neon signs that are just obnoxious when you come up on, and there's several places around town, I'm sure you've seen them, that we're trying to avoid and eliminate those, giving them the ability to state that they're open, but it's just always been an issue with any type of digital signs, LED message boards and so forth.
So once again, if it's existing, their grandfather,
At this time, yes,
but
sir.
if it changes,
Mhm.
even the obnoxious bright white LEDs circling a window
Mhm.
can stay until that business changes ownership.
Exactly. Ownership, occupancy, so forth. Change of use. Anytime we have a change of occupancy, that'll trigger
Had to come
the new
out.
sign ordinance. It used to only be change of ownership, but now we've done is change of occupancy because it gives us a little more teeth on what we can do and help clean it up.
A good example of that is Pop Shelf. My
Mhm.
little niece calls it the circle store. So I
Mhm.
almost said
Circle
that.
store, yeah.
And so, you had that old Rite Aid sign, they've repurposed and it looks great now,
Yeah.
but that took a lot of pressure from our city manager on them to make that sign look better. Whereas this would,
Force it.
prohibit that. It would force them to do it. Also, like Whataburger was trying to utilize the existing Capital City Market sign. I mean,
It was awful. If you've seen the
So-
renderings, yes, it was terrible. So after a lot.
so
of back
those
and
are
forth-
just a few. I mean, you would not be surprised, but we get so many complaints on signs. Even that Pop Shelf sign, you would not believe the number of calls that we get on revitalizing signs or, making them tear them down when they change. I mean, it's a real problem. So these aren't just items that we sit in our office and dream. I mean, it really is from real life experience that we've had issuing permits and complaints that we've gotten and issues that we see. So we really do try to put a common sense spin on things and want our businesses to succeed, but there do have to be limitations. Or we're not going to get any more businesses, right? Because that's part of economic development. You want our city to look clean and nice and not cluttered. So
I
we
guess-
appreciate your support
Yeah.
tonight for the sign ordinance amendment.
I guess my final question is, Mr. Marchetti, we're not doing anything that's violating free speech. I know there's a big discussion. Other times we've amended and messed with the sign ordinance, here. No, nothing in here is affecting us or detrimental to us in any of those ways or manners.
These are all reasonable limitations.
Questions, comments?
One quick question.
Please.
About the political signs. So it's 60 days prior to the election, 5 days after. Excuse me. Well, we're coming into a new sense of normal where just about every candidate has a primary and then a general. And just doing the math in my head, there's a time gap there. And I noticed last cycle, you had some candidates that took them down, others didn't. So is there a potential loophole there? Because from the end of that primary to the beginning of the general, it's well over 60 days.
Some comply, some don't.
That's what I was going to say. And staff wise, I'll be honest with you, trying to maintain and go out and check all of these is not easy. We do our best with what staff we do have. We do rely heavily on people's honesty and common sense approach to that. But the cycles now, they're so close. And again, it's a situation that we want to make sure that we're being fair and consistent across the board. So we do watch those closely. We do put out that information ahead of the game when people start pulling their petitions to run. So it's an ever-changing cycle. We're doing our best with it, and we'll continue to do our best with it as far as watching these people. But we also hope that people will just be honest and forthcoming and try to do and remove as they are. And we will approach those that don't, and we'll contact them and give them the same abilities to remove those in the time frame that's given others. We don't treat them any differently because they do fall under our temporary non-commercial signage. So it's treated as anything the same as any other non-commercial signs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions, comments? Got to say that I think you guys are definitely aware that my initial reaction coming into tonight was request deferral for this item to give me more time to absorb it. I feel comfortable with the time and effort that's been applied to this, and my thought going forward as it moves forward to the Board of Commissioners is if I read or see anything else from my standpoint, I'll share it to the Board of Commissioners via that avenue there. Whether that's an email back to the commissioners and our mayor, or just during citizen comments prior to the beginning of the Board of Commissioners. So with that being said, I would like to make a motion for a positive recommendation back to the Board of Commissioners with consideration for temporary signs for a treated post to be allowed as a usable material there. Also with a recommendation that the Board of Commissioners looks at this from a staffing and responsibility standpoint, recommending that be moved out of Ms. Johnson's job responsibilities, I guess it would be a good way to define that one. And that a designated, whether or not that's city beautiful or whatever department deemed necessary by the Board of Commissioners, have oversight of this and then brought back to planning for the appropriate enforcement of such regards this ordinance. That would be my recommendation. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? It's a positive recommendation. With that being said, I need a motion to adjourn. Motion? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? We are adjourned.